Hey, what is going on, my friends, and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're talking about ADA Cardano as it looks to break the chains of this massive consolidation in which we have been seeing for the last month. Now, I know a lot of you guys are frustrated. I know a lot of you guys are getting annoyed and just patiently waiting. And one thing that I will say is at the moment, from what I can tell, it does seem like ADA is trying to break off some of these chains that have been constricting it to this massive accumulation or consolidation phase. Just kind of depends on how you see it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at what the price is doing. Of course, it's not doing much, so that shouldn't take very long. Then we're going to take a look at the some of the chains that are being broken, what I'm expecting from this thing, and why I think that this is okay. All right, so let's go ahead and let's get into it. So first off, what is the price doing? Well, what we can see is that if originally we were taking a closer look at this symmetrical triangle, right? We were taking a look at this symmetrical triangle and we were seeing, okay, will we break out to the upside or will we break out to the downside? And we did a little bit of both. But one thing we can notice is that as we did break out to the downside, which is generally going to be a bearish pattern, on the daily charts, our 100 EMA and our 20 and 50 EMA created a squeeze on that exit, meaning that as the price exited out of the symmetrical triangle, we had our 100 EMA and our 20 and 50 EMA working together to hold the price right here. First and foremost, this kind of just shows me a sign of strength because typically speaking, when we lose a strong pattern such as this one, we will collapse. But the fact that our 100 EMA is holding strong and we're seeing these strong daily wicks down to that EMA, it tells me that there is a strong level of support there holding us up from rolling down this VPVR hill or just receding back to our key support zone. Since then, we have then gone back up to retest this trend line multiple times because remember, once we do establish some support on this level, once we flip it, it's going to be resistance. And we can see that we've been struggling to hold within it, but we're not struggling that much to go back to retest it. And so what that tells me is that there is a very equivalent amount of resistance and support pushing down and pushing up, okay, creating a bit of a squeeze. Now, typically, this is going to be a coil up effect. Now, what a coil up effect is going to be is that people are going to get bored. They're going to get frustrated. They're going to get aggravated, and the price is just going to constrict. I do personally believe that these events that last this long, when we see the price getting pushed down like this amount, I'm not the type to constantly scream manipulation, but one thing that I will say is in my time in crypto, I've seen many events in which we see the bigger whales pushing out the retail investors in order to increase their control. They do this by either creating such volatile events that it keeps just smashing people out of their short and their long positions, or we see this consolidational events where we will see these huge attempted moves to the upside, such as here, but we see the price getting absolutely smashed back down to a key support level where it just strongly holds, right? And it just seems to be, once we see the retail investors getting annoyed, getting frustrated, getting aggravated, that's when we see that big massive explosion to the upside once the chains are broken off. And one thing that I will say is that right now it does seem as if some of these chains may be being broken. So what we can see though, first and foremost, is that this squeeze event is going to happen pretty soon, okay? We're getting very close and there's not much room left to grow, okay? We can maybe do this for another week or a week and a half, but realistically at some point it's going to have to move. It's going to have to make a break above or below, and once it does that, that is going to be a telltale sign of what to expect. But in my opinion, things are seeming more bullish, and I'm going to give what those bullish indications are now. First and foremost, what we can see on our RSI is that we've been constricted within this symmetrical triangle, and it was starting to just get real tight. We were getting right to the apex and there's not much room to work, and you can actually see that we broke out to the upside. Generally speaking, that means that there could be a lot more room to grow, and considering the fact that we are still below 50, that means that we're still looking to enter into this bullish territory. And if we do, I mean, that could be a fantastic sign that the RSI, the buying pressure, the just overall market wants that strength to move to the upside, okay? And so with that, I'm definitely keeping a close eye on the daily RSI. And if we just take a look at the 4-hour RSI as well, we can see that we have a very similar amount of room. Okay, we're not looking at much divergence here, much bearish or bullish divergence, but we can actually see a minor case. Let's go ahead. I just want to clear up these. Actually, let's go ahead and let's go here. We can see a minor case of some bullish divergence happening. The way in which we can see that is by taking a look at this little move that happened right here. It was so subtle, but it was such a very important thing to see, is that we set a low, and then on this wick at the very, very, very bottom of that wick, I mean, I'm talking at the very bottom, we actually put in a lower low. So we put in a low, then a lower low. And one thing we can see on our RSI on the 4-hour charts is a low and a higher low. So we went up from this one to that one. And although this is a very small difference and may not be noticeable, it is very important because it does show that there are these minor signs of strength that just tell us that we're not seeing some type of bearish divergence. Of course, our RSI is looking fine. We're not seeing any bearish divergence here. We see lower highs and lower highs, but we are seeing this very minor bullish divergence on the bottom side, okay? Meaning that there could be more things pushing us up than there are things pushing us down. And I do think that can be noticed by the way in which we're interacting with some of these levels. Now, what I mean by that is if we, just take a look at how we've been reapproaching this trend line. We've been having a lot of closes on the trend line. We've been having a lot of closes where the price just barely gets pushed down off of it. But if we do again look at that 100 EMA, we can see these are wicks, meaning that they're getting eaten up and the push is getting pushed way back away from it the moment it gets close, okay? And so what that tells me is that the support down here may be a little bit stronger than the resistance up here, which just tells us that there could be chains that are getting broken off and that ADA could be looking at this move to the upside. Totally speculative, but that's my opinion. One other thing I can see is that we avoided this bearish crossing, okay? We had a very momentary or kind of scary moment where we saw this possible cross, which could have led to a retracement back down to our support level, but that's not what happened. We saw ADA's price turning back around and continue upwards, which was a power move. Honestly, that was a power move. That was a move by the bulls to say, you know what? No, we're not doing that. We're not going down. I don't care about this red candle. We want this thing to go up, and we can see it slowly trending up, which could be a fantastic thing to look out for. And it tells us that the bulls do seem to be just barely winning this fight right now, okay? Now, even if we look at things such as ADA Bitcoin, where we compare ADA to Bitcoin and we see how it's performing against it, we can also see this sign of strength. We can also see that things are starting to look a bit bullish. Now, let's go ahead and let's get this MACD pulled up. And you can actually see that just a few days ago, we saw this bullish crossover. Now, typically, when we see these things happen, let's go ahead and look at a few of the last times they've happened. Back here, we saw a big move follow it. When we look at it, even back here, boom. Although it did lead to an eventual fall as the rest of the market came back down at the end of July, but we saw beyond that move, this move to the upside in which ADA is completely outperforming Bitcoin. And every single time we go back in the past, that is a very, it's a common thing. We see this bullish crossing, boom, move to the upside. So what that tells me is that ADA does seem to be primed and ready, especially while it is, very, very close to this key support level as established back here. It does look ready to make some type of move to the upside. It wants to go outperform Bitcoin. It wants to go make that move in which we see ADA just climbing and climbing. And on a day like today, where ADA Bitcoin is up 1.82%, meaning we're seeing ADA up 1.5% and Bitcoin actually down 0.3%, I think that's a fantastic sign to show that the chains just may be getting broken. And even if we look at ADA Ethereum, in which we compare ADA to Ethereum and see the performance, we can see that it does look as if ADA is reaching key support levels in which we may be looking at the move back to the upside. Because typically speaking, what history says is that after we see these big falls back down to support levels, we find that support and we continue upwards. And now that it does seem as if a lot of people are starting to get bored, a lot of people are starting to get frustrated, those tend to be the times that I notice the retail investors are officially shaken out, and then we see them moves to the upside. So overall, of course, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you exactly what is going to happen or what is not going to happen, but I can tell you my interpretation of things. And my interpretation of things are telling me that things are looking more bullish than bearish. That a lot of the things that we are looking at right now are pointing in upwards, in an upward direction. And if we do see the market picking up, if we do see a continuation and the completion of some type of W pattern here, we definitely can be looking at the breakout to the top side of our 20 and 50 daily EMA, which I think would send us more towards our $2.36 to $2.50 zone before finding some type of resistance, okay? And so with that being said, guys, my only recommendation to you all is to understand that after we saw the biggest move in ADA's history, in which we set a very massive higher high, the fact that we were able to come back down and establish some support to let our indicators cool down rather than going all the way back down to letting our indicators cool down should be a sign of strength. It should not be a sign of frustration or weakness for you all, because it very easily could have just did this. right? And then slowly be trending back upwards right now and be in the same area as many of our other cryptos are. I would much rather see that support gets held because it shows that the foundation of supporters behind ADA is much stronger than that of many other cryptos. And I think that will be entailed by the continuation of some type of uptrend, okay? And so with that being said, just keep an eye out for this. Pay attention, keep a close eye, because remember guys, this doesn't have very long left. The squeeze is going to be finished at some point, and when that happens, we will start to really get an idea of where this thing is going. So with that being said, of course, I will keep you guys as up to date as possible as I can whenever any news that comes out, anything important happens. So definitely do stay tuned, and I will see you all next time. Peace.